Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
This is yet another edition of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. You always hear that the biggest enemy of any engine is the dry start. Every time you start the engine, it doesn't have any oil in it, and that creates problems. How long does it take to create a dry start situation, Kevin?
Well, 35 minutes and as little as 30 seconds.
And so a lot of folks talk about maybe a rattle when they start up, and is that what creates that generally?
Yeah, you know, so many systems rely on simply oil pressure, let alone lubrication to work properly. You got cam phaser gears, and you got like your cam chain tensioner. Those items require the hydraulic pressure to work properly, and that lack of pressure till it gets satisfied causes problems to those systems.
But those few seconds can create so much damage in the engine over the course of time.
Absolutely.
So you have a solution.
We do, of course.
At Baxter Performance. Now tell me what you brought here.
Well, typical with cartridge filter systems, some have anti-drain back valves in them, but they don't have outflow prevention, and so the oil filter can still be emptied. And so we have a solution for that. Some are mounted underneath and don't require any kind of prevention to keep it from outflowing because they're mounted underneath. But other ones are mounted up on top. So we have various solutions for the applications.
All right, well, gravity always wins, like you told me earlier,
Yeah.
and it's true.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys are here. So,
right.
So let's start here. Tell me about this one.
Well, okay, that one is actually for the Ford 2.7 3-liter EcoBoost engines.
Okay.
They're mounted on top. They drain out in about 18 minutes.
Okay.
In your actual manual that you get with the vehicle, it tells you to wait 15 minutes before checking the oil level. And some people theorize that it's drained out of the heads. It takes a little while to get down there. You hope not, because you want that oil recirculating fast. So what ours does is it keeps it from draining out of the oil cooler and the filter that otherwise happens in 18 minutes.
Moving on from the Ford then, we have the Pentastar. This is Chrysler's engine.
And of course very popular with the Jeeps.
For sure. Also mounted on top. What's special about this?
Well, okay, so we have about a 35-minute total drain out on that. Takes the cooler with it as well. We incorporate a full flow outflow check valve on the unit, and along with a Schrader valve that you just apply 3 seconds of compressed air, and it blows down the system so that when you remove the spin-on filter that you've converted it to, no mess at all.
And you have a special cleat here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the tight confinements that are with the engine configuration, when you install it, we had to figure out a way to keep it rotationally clocked to the right position to access the Schrader valve, what have you. So what we did was we incorporated a cleat here that actually distorts the threads that is tightened by a screw on the very end. And so when you install it and clock it to the right position, tighten it, it won't loosen, or in any way when you install the spin-on filter you're converting to or taking it off.
And that's for the newer Pentastar engines. The older ones are a little bit different.
Older ones are a little bit different. So we have, this variant is for 2014 and newer, but we'll be introducing oil filter adapters for the 2011 through 2013 versions of that engine.
Gotcha. I've got a friend with a Subaru. He says that thing rattles all the time when he starts it up.
Yeah, it does.
And this is the Subaru unit here?
Yeah, so the same application here basically, but we incorporate the same check valve on top and the Schrader valve for evacuation. What happens with the Subaru is it drains out in about 30 seconds. It fills up the filter, right, and the headspace of air remains in the filter so that when you shut off the engine, that headspace goes to ambient pressure, because it was compressed before, pushes it out, and then it totally empties. And because it shares the same vein, basically, that leads up from the pump, and it's only separated by a plate without a gasket, both sides actually evacuate, regardless if the filter even had an anti-drain back valve. So ours takes care of that by keeping both of those galleys flooded, and you never have a dry start.
What about the folks that want a different location? They want to relocate the oil filter?
Well, what we have here is Relocation Mount. This one is for Toyota, and we can port off the bottom or off the side, depending on the configuration. Some engines require mounting like this, other ones are like this. So it allows us to port out and go to a remote mount like we have here, and this is our inverted remote mount. But you'd have it for different reasons. You'd want to relocate it, or you want to add extra oil cooling, and this allows for that diversity to be able to adapt your cooling or relocation.
For 15 years or so, Toyota's been getting away from the spin-on filter. They've gone to a cartridge filter, and that creates a lot of problems.
Yes, so much so that they're actually transitioning now back to the spin-on filters, right? So they were having drain back issues, and some people just simply didn't like dealing with the cartridge filter system. So it's no surprise that they're going back to the reliable spin-on filter that incorporates an anti-drain back valve. And so you don't have a flow back on the filter anymore.
The Toyota behind us, we put an adapter from Baxter Performance on that. The installation was super simple. Of course, took out the skid plate to get access to it.
Yeah, it was plug and play. So all we do is we remove the cap and filter, apply lubrication to our O-rings that come pre-installed. You simply install it right where the cap was, and now you can apply your spin-on filter right away.
Well, this is American ingenuity, and it's made right here in America. It's solving a huge problem. You can find them at BaxterPerformanceUSA.com. We'll return right after this with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, so keep it right here.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. NH Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system. And by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977.
Welcome back to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now, classic car owners especially, you may have heard about rodents getting inside your vehicle, eating the wires. Matt, a lot of folks say the new vehicles may have bigger problems because of soy being used for the coating on the wires, but that doesn't really tell the whole story, does it?
Combining way more wires with engine covers and nice places for the rodents to hide creates perfect nesting opportunities.
I think the common wisdom is that mice are looking for food, but that's also not the whole story.
Mice are constantly teething, so as their teeth are growing, they're looking for something to gnaw on to keep their teeth short and sharp. Just so happens, hiding under these engine covers, wiring seems to be one of the most prevalent things for them to kind of bite on.
You have years of experience at car dealerships. So how many cars do you see coming in that have damage from mice and rats and that sort of thing?
So the damage associated with like a check engine light, you see probably 1 in every 10, 20 cars. But you see damage to engine covers and hood liners and some insulation here and there. And that's probably 1 in 5 from where I am up in New England. People don't always know that this is happening, so because it hasn't turned the check engine light on yet. But if they're there, they're multiplying, increasing your risk of kind of breaking down and having an expensive repair.
And over the years, people have been asking, how do I prevent this or how do I fix it?
This is the Mouseblocker Classic. This is about 10 years old now. It's designed back then to be very small, work very well off the battery itself. It's a very low power draw, so it can run for many, many months without draining the battery down. We found that it actually works better nowadays in motorcycles and tractors and smaller spaces. We even have some dealers that put them in pool pumps and central air conditioners. The reason it's kind of evolved into our more powerful models are as the cars are getting more complicated, and like I touched on, the engine covers and insulation and padding, we needed to increase the power to get some more penetration and circulation under and around these engine compartments and big motors. And we designed the Mouseblocker Pro. So this has 3 settings to it. The highest ones are eviction mode, which actually hits at 115 decibels. Jackhammer decibels, it's like 400 times more powerful than anything else you've really seen on the market.
To a mouse, that's a tremendous amount of force. And to the human ear, that's just a little chirping sound. And you're not going to hear it when it's under the hood when you're driving it.
Exactly. And with the unit, we actually added these lights here. These are actually dual strobing LEDs, and what they do is they create shadows in and around the area. So when the mice come in to this nice, warm, safe place that they know, well, now this warm place doesn't feel so safe anymore.
And that unit there clearly hooks onto the battery terminals there. Should that be in your daily driver or something like that?
Daily driver, yep, simple 2-wire hookup. Goes right to power and ground. And the really cool thing about this is when you start the car, this actually goes to sleep. And when you park the car and it knows that the car is not running anymore, this actually comes to life and starts protecting it. So there's nothing you have to do. This is kind of automatic.
And for the folks that may have a show car, something you don't want that under the hood all the time, you've got a unit here that plugs in, and if you have a trickle charger, you're unplugging that anyway. You can unplug this unit and hit the road.
Exactly. So this was designed for long-term storage scenarios. So something where the car is going to be sitting for more than 2 weeks is what we call a long-term storage. Something where the battery needs to be tended, something where you're driving it once a month, you're going to an event, or it's a project, you know, something that you're working on. That's where we have the plug-in version. Works just like this one, has all of the same features, including our proprietary eviction mode. Very, very powerful.
And speaking of powerful here, this clearly doesn't go under the hood. How does this unit work? This is brand new.
What we found is once we were driving the rodents out of the car, the garage now became like a vulnerable space. This is a sweet whisper quiet kind of setup, but it has 4 long-range speakers. So this is designed to protect up to 1,000 square feet. This will reflect across the floor and all around in the garage, making now that area uncomfortable.
The Mouseblocker is going to solve your mouse problems. It's also a great insurance policy from it starting in the first place. Check them out at mouseblocker.com, and I bet you one of these is a whole lot cheaper than getting one wire repaired at the dealership. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, so stay right here. Welcome back to Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Once upon a time, we had a sister show. It was called Performance TV. Kathy Fisher was one of the hosts, and she had this really cool product that a lot of folks keep asking about to this day.
We have a great thing to show you today on how you can move a vehicle around in the shop, outside, without having to have the factory wheels and tires on it. Now, when would you run into a situation like that? Let's say, for an example, you own a body shop and you've got vehicles, different ones coming in, damaged wheels and tires. What do you do and how do you move that vehicle around if you don't have those particular wheels and tires, or while you're waiting for those to come in? It's tying up your rack in the meantime. But that's why we have Sergio here with us today from Guniwheel. Now, Sergio, how in the world did you come up with this idea?
The whole idea and the concept came when I've been in the auto body shop industry and the wheel repair industry for many years, and I just had that instinct going to shops, finding cars that were dead, couldn't be moved, and they needed some mobility, right? How did we get cars off jack stands? How do we get it back to the ground? And how do we keep cars moving, which increases production, obviously. Increase in production is increase in revenue.
Well, you know, you mentioned jack stands, and something that I notice about the Guniwheel, we've got it, it's mobile, it's up off the ground, we can still work on it if we need to, without it being on a jack stand, which can be dangerous.
That's right, and it's a high risk. And you know, on the high-end cars nowadays, it's also difficult to find a jack point. So it becomes a guessing game for the technicians out there. This eliminates that guess. You put the Guniwheel on, you drop it back down to the safe ground where all cars should be, and you know you've got a car on the ground and it's safe.
Okay, so we have our Mustang here, which, you know, we've got our 5-bolt pattern, but this particular Guniwheel does how many different bolt patterns?
Yes, this is the Guniwheel 45, so this will cover your 4 and 5 lug patterns from 100 PCD all the way up to 137 PCD. The center bore on this specific wheel is 65 millimeters, so it also covers the majority of the center bores out there.
What's it made out of?
A mild steel, same material they use to make trailer wheels, spare wheels on cars, and the outer rim is basically a solid rubber, natural rubber, so it's non-marking. It will not leave any black marks, you know, on the shop floors.
What's the weight rating on the Guniwheel?
It does weigh 34 pounds, and it has the rate capacity of 2,500 pounds per wheel.
Okay, so 2,500 pounds per wheel.
Per wheel, yeah.
Wow. Say you've got a really nice car, not just for the body shops or shops like that, for you at home that has a nice vehicle, it's going to sit for 7 months because it's going to be in storage.
That's right.
You could use something like this and then not have flat spots.
This is perfect. I do it on my boat. You know, I'm stored my boat away for the winter, put the Guniwheels on, took the original wheels off, stored them away. Not going to get flat spots, not going to get dry rotting on the sidewalls. Perfect tool for storage.
When I look at it, and you mentioned the natural rubber, it's not smooth. I see there's some like notches on there. Now, what would that be for?
Yeah, so you know, I had to bring safety into it, you know, safety first. So I designed the wheel that it could have safety strips that it's almost like a warning signal. As soon as you go over 5 miles an hour, it is going to vibrate. The car's going to vibrate, and you're going to know you got Guniwheels on the car. And you're going to know you've hit that 5-mile mark.
That's right, slow down.
Slow down. We do not want you to go anything faster than 5 miles an hour.
So you have the 45.
That's right.
And I also see that you are working on the prototype we have here for the 5 and 6 lug.
That's right, yeah. So this is the bigger wheel. This will cover your bigger SUVs, your pickup trucks. This will have, as you can see, it's got a much bigger center bore of 110 mils, and it's got the PCDs at 135 and 139.7 and 155. So that will cover a wide variety of our SUVs and pickups on the road today.
What are you expecting the weight limit to be?
Probably at 2,500 pounds plus. We are going with a 4mm steel on this one,
okay,
where the Guni 45 is a 3.2mm. So this will have a much heavier load rating.
And you also have it covered as well. If people have great big brakes on the car, you have spacers that are available and so much more. You can go to their website at Guniwheel.com and see what they have available for your ride and find out more about the product.
More cool products like that when we come back to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings.
Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. Firewire LEDs, all of your LED lighting needs, a new approach to the lighting industry. Resin Works, made in America, installed locally. And by Anderson Hitches, premier towing products.
Welcome back to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Last segment, we saw Kathy Fisher from Performance TV. This time it's her co-host, Joe Costello's turn.
Now, you know I love technology. It makes things better and more efficient. Maybe in no better example than the torque converter. Marty Chance is in the house. Marty, we got some converters, we got some race cars and hot rods. What are we learning about this week?
Our bolt-together converters have taken over heads-up drag racing, and in a modern race car, it's all about tunability. Our torque converters don't just have a few stators. The stators are almost infinitely variable. For example, for a converter like this, we'll build a stator from 20 degrees to 50 degrees in every 2.5 degree increments. And not only that, but the blade counts. Like, you could have as many as 20 blades, as few as 7 blades. We also build them in X and A factors, which are stators that have a slightly higher torque multiplication. There's also an R factor. That's something we've never talked about publicly. It's a technology we designed probably more than a decade ago. Basically what it is, it's a technology that allows us to advance or retard the stator like you would advance or retard a camshaft, which is to say we can make the stator stay in a torque multiplying mode longer or come out sooner.
So you're speaking another language to a lot of people out there, but there are a lot of people that understand exactly what you're saying. Bottom line is we're talking about winning races and getting the most out of the parts and pieces you've already paid for to go racing with. This adjustability is the difference between winning and losing.
Right, absolutely. A modern race car has to have the ability to tune for a track condition or any situation that may come up. And this torque converter is the most tunable converter ever conceived.
Now, you have been doing this for many years, but we are seeing like champions and race winners, whether it be on outlaw tracks or national event tracks, they're using your converters.
Yeah, that's true. We've set records and won championships all over the world. And this converter, the bolt-together converter, we brought this to the industry almost 35 years ago. So we've been doing this a long time. The technology in-house is just phenomenal.
Let's talk about some of the customer service that you offer, because people are like, okay, I want to win races, but where is my spot with Neal Chance Racing Converters? If they have something unique that they want to do, maybe a combination that they need put together unique for their combination, how do you handle that?
When a customer has his Neal Chance converter out, he runs it, the best thing we can do for him is to link up through the internet with them, take a look at their data. So they'll have their data log on their computer, we'll link screens to the internet, we'll be able to read that data and then show them how to advance their program.
And depends, 5,000 horsepower Pro Mods, 1,500 horsepower Showdown cars, or just a really powerful street car, you've got something for them.
Absolutely. The technology we developed in the racing world to win all these championships, we did the same thing with the street performance car, because today's modern street rod is nothing to have 700, 1,000, 1,200 horsepower in a street-driven car that runs on pump gas. And that same technology, we developed a converter that's very user-friendly, very inexpensive. A converter like this starts at like $1,000.
And a lot of people think, like, oh my goodness, Neal Chance Racing converters, that's just for pro mod cars, and that's not the case.
Not the case. The popular hot rodding scene today has, whether it's a boosted LS or any other type of hot rod with a big block Chevy or a Ford or whatever, if it's got an overdrive transmission with a lockup converter, say the 4-speed and 6-speed overdrive lockups, that's the kind of street rod performance converters we're talking about, one just like this one.
Performance and drivability, which I think is everybody's goal with a powerful street car.
Right, absolutely. In fact, we even have a lot of people that'll ask us, you know, well, I've put a supercharger on my car, I've put a turbocharger on my car, why do I need a converter? Well, that factory converter was designed for the factory power curve of a stock motor. So when you boost it and you make a lot more power, you throw nitrous on it or whatever, you've changed the power curve, the converter needs to be adjusted for that.
Good point. You can spend all that money on a supercharger. Go the extra mile. Performance, adjustability, drivability, and maybe even a race win. If you are looking for that, hit their website. Marty's got it going on.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. We hope you enjoyed the ride. We're going to do it again next week, so be sure to join us then. In the meantime, if you have a product you want to see on the show, email Jeff at masterstv.com. And while you're online, hop over to our Facebook page and tell us how we're doing. From our entire crew here at our Masters Entertainment Group studios, we will see you next time. So long.